Hello, my dear. How are you doing today? So before you quickly say, I'm good, I really want you to take a moment to just check in with your mind, your body, and your spirit to see, how are you really doing? How are you really doing right now and in this moment? So all of my mindset coaching that I do, it's based in mindfulness practices. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is all about living in the present moment. So right here, right now. Mindfulness is not about living in the past. It's not about living in the future. And it's not about, I'll be okay when this or that happens or when this thing or that thing is done. But mindfulness is just about, again, being present. So again, how are you doing? How are you doing in this moment? If you're feeling stressed or if you're feeling stretched way too thin, today's episode, it's just for you. So let's break it all down. What is emotional capacity? And I know that we've all heard that you can't pour from an empty cup. So simply speaking, it's a measuring stick. It's a measuring stick for stress management and for resilience. Emotional capacity, it's like our emotional battery. So when it gets run down, it needs to be recharged. Emotional capacity, it's about understanding your limits without ignoring, without pushing past what your mind, what your body, and what your spirit needs. You know that you're at emotional capacity when you find it difficult to concentrate or to make a decision. You know you're at emotional capacity when you feel tired and when you feel drained. You know you're at emotional capacity when your life feels like it's too much, and even doing the simple task of everyday life, that even feels like it's just way too much. You know you're at emotional capacity when you're easily irritable with yourself and with others. You know you're at emotional capacity when you check out and you struggle to stay present in this moment, especially during moments of distress. You know you're at emotional capacity when you ruminate. So your mind is stuck on focusing on things over and over, like especially the negative thoughts. And even when you find that you're consumed by even all of your negative emotions, you know you're at emotional capacity when you're just flat out tired and overwhelmed. Does any of these ring a bell for you? Is any of these hitting home for you? The truth is, we were not created to be on all the time. So, on with all the stress, on with not taking a break. Our nervous system, it's easily overloaded. But our nervous system is also a perfect example of a balance of two systems. Our body is always trying to help us to maintain a state of homeostasis. So let's take a moment and just nerd out with me for just a quick moment. Our bodies, they're mapped out by two main systems. So the central nervous system, that consists of our brain and our spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system. That's broken down into two systems. So the autonomic and the somatic nervous systems. The autonomic nervous system, it's made up of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. The somatic nervous system, it's responsible for sharing input between your body and your brain from 4 of 5 of your senses. So not all 5 of your senses, but just 4 of those. So that includes smell, your sense of sound, your sense of taste, and touch. So smell, sound, taste, and touch is handled by the somatic nervous system. But your sense of sight, it's part of the central nervous system that controls the brain and the spinal cord. Our sense of sight, it's connected directly to the brain via our retina and the optic nerve. Your somatic nervous system, it involves things that you can consciously sense and do. So, for example, like moving your arms or your legs. Your autonomic nervous system, it works without you even having to think about it. So, automatic, such as thinking about breathing. You don't have to think about breathing, it just automatically happens. Digesting food, it just automatically happens. So, the autonomic nervous system. The main parts that honestly I hope that you take away, I've given you a lot of information, but the main parts that I hope you take away from this talk about the nervous system is that the parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for rest and digest, while the parasympathetic nervous system, it's responsible for responding to stress in a response of either fight or flight. Because the whole goal of having a healthy emotional capacity is to know how and when to shift from the stress response of fight or flight, which is the sympathetic nervous system, to activate the common response of rest and digest toward the parasympathetic nervous system. So at the end of today's episode, I'm going to share a few quick tips with you to help you to manage your emotional capacity. But when I work with my clients for mindset coaching, I teach them how to regulate their nervous system and how to give them mindset strategies and coping skills to feel calmer and more control in every facet of their life, from relationships to business to family to just being with themselves. And so all facets of their life. So now we've taken some time to define emotional capacity and look at the nervous system. Let's take a moment just to look at some ideas of how we can manage and increase our emotional capacity. So a few ideas. So first and foremost, you have to have a real self-care plan. So I'm not talking about anything that is like hair, nail, massage, vacation. Like those are the big things, but those are not things that you can do on a daily. So the daily things, that's what's the true self-care plan. That's where the real magic is. The self-care that you do on a daily, that's what helps you to become more resilient so you can bounce back. And the next thing I want to share is identifying your triggers. So what types of triggers do you have? Who are your triggers? Where are your triggers? So maybe there's a location-based trigger. So is there unresolved trauma or grief? Is there an external pressure from your family, your friends, or from work? Or is there internal pressure from yourself to be perfect, to please others so that you can earn self-worth? Like, take a moment just to dive into where are these triggers coming from? Another way to manage your emotional capacity is looking at your boundaries. Whew. Boundaries. Let me help someone to find some freedom. Your role in life is not to make everyone happy. Your role in life is not to make everyone happy, and it's not to make sure everyone is safe and secure. That's not your role. Your boundaries need to be no. Your boundaries need to be, I don't have time for that. Your boundaries need to be, let me get back to you. Your boundaries need to be ways that you protect your energy, your mind, your peace, your time, your finances, like all of those things. Your physical space, like all those things are boundaries. The next thing to manage your emotional capacity is to take time to truly rest and recover. So instead of just pushing through, trying to make the deadline, and you're wearing yourself out because you're doing that over and over and over, because we've already talked about our bodies were not designed to be on all the time. So give yourself permission and time to take rest so that you can recover mentally and physically. The next thing is to build your life around healthy routines that fill each of your buckets for your mind, your body, and your spirit. So what are you doing to nurture your spirit? Maybe that's prayer. Maybe that is music. What are you doing to nurture your mind? Maybe that's an affirmation. Maybe that is listening to a great podcast. Wink, wink. Maybe, and so what are you doing to nurture your body? So maybe that is doing yoga or stretching or hitting the gym. So what are you doing to fill all those buckets, your mind, your body, and your spirit? So check in with yourself on a daily basis and making sure you're hitting those buckets. Is there any of those buckets that are getting overlooked? Is there any of those buckets that are getting neglected? Can you take a moment and notice that with loving kindness, without judgment, but also find ways that you can do something about it and take action? The next thing is learning to just ground to the earth. So that's a mindfulness practice, but grounding to the earth, you can do that with bare feet, but you can also do that with just kind of connecting to nature, going for a walk out in nature, touching the grass, touching the trees. The last thing to increase your emotional capacity is to spend time with people that love you, that know you, that support you, that uplift you, that know how to see you correctly. That's another great way to increase your emotional capacity. And if you're looking for additional ways to increase your emotional capacity and learn ways to manage it, I encourage you to sign up to get on the wait list for the next Mindfully You workshop. I have ones that'll be posted in person in Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky, and also have ones that'll be hosted online, so virtual. And you can do that at daringwell.com/wellness. And that's daringwell.com/wellness, where we take time to just pause. We take time to reflect, to journal. And I give you different journaling prompts and hold space for you, as well as we'll carve out time to reset your nervous system with coping skills. So again, that's daringwell.com/wellness. So as we wrap up today, I do have a few reflection questions just to encourage you to lean into emotional capacity and find ways that you can increase that. So, for example, what fills my emotional bucket? What fills my emotional bucket? You can also think about that like, what gives me joy? What makes me smile? And so take some time to reflect on that. But on the flip side, what drains my emotional bucket? What makes me irritable? What makes me sad? What makes me frustrated? So what are the things that drain my emotional bucket? What's your baseline? What's your normal? But also reflect on, where do you want to be? So maybe your normal is, I'm always irritable. Okay, well, where do you want to be? So maybe you want to be more calmer. All right, take some time and just chart that and take some time to reflect that. Your emotional capacity, it's not a measure of your worth. It's a reflection of the weight and the pressure that your mind and your body and spirit and your nervous system has been carrying for quite a while. So you don't have to try to prove that you're strong. You don't need to prove that you need to earn rest, and you don't need permission to rest. Rest because you know it's necessary. Rest because you know it's necessary for maintaining a healthy emotional capacity. Sometimes the healthiest thing that you can do is to stop trying to be strong and just be honest about where you are, what you need in this moment, and be honest about what the weight that you're carrying and the pressures you're under. It's okay to be human. And then also, while you're acknowledging those things and validating yourself, find the tools, get the tools to increase your emotional capacity, whether it's getting a wellness and a mindset coach, wink, wink, you can connect with me, or you can also find one in your local community. But definitely don't do life alone. Get support if you feel like you need it. But saying that you don't have the emotional capacity does not have to be your story anymore. You can reset and you can change your story today, starting now. So again, if you need help building a healthy plan that works for your lifestyle, connect with me via email at info@daringwell.com. So info@daringwell.com. Also, if you're looking for vegan-based wellness products for your home, check out the store. So daringwellshop.com. So I have candles and wax melts, room sprays. Everything's vegan-based. Reed diffusers. And that's daringwellshop.com. All right, guys. That's all for today's episode. Wishing you so much joy and well-being, my dear. Thank you for joining me today on the Daring Well podcast. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with a friend and to please leave me a review wherever you listen to this episode. Until next time, keep living, keep loving, and keep daring well. Take care, my dear. God bless.